Hi, welcome to the video to accompany the We3 forums for week 2 of 39B. You can find the forums from the homepage of your studio. First, go to your homepage, then click on Forums. The writing that you'll be doing in the forums each week is like training wheels for the rhetorical analysis essay that's coming up in week 5. Each forum entry will be written very carefully and give you directions on how to write a rhetorical analysis of the text under consideration for the week. So, the first rule of the forums is that before you choose one to answer, you have to read every prompt. And the reason for this is because we're doing some teaching through the forums. Consider them replacements for coming to class and hearing a lecture about Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely, and some of the ways that we might read We3 rhetorically. So you need to read each forum prompt before you choose which one to answer. Rule number 2, if other people have already answered the prompt you're responding to, then you have to say something different in your prompt. You might be talking about the same page or the same group of pages, but you talk about different visual elements within that page. Or you might be talking about the same visual elements, but you're using different quotations from Eisner or the Morrison interview to develop your answer. Entries that only repeat what others have already written will receive a grade penalty. So, if you're not the first one to answer the prompt, make sure that you read what all of your classmates have written before you answer yours. Later on in the week, you'll have an opportunity to respond to some of the forums your classmates have written. So you will be reading all of what your classmates write in the forums. This is very good for you also for the rhetorical analysis essay because you will get more ideas. If you decide that you're going to write about We3, then you'll get a lot of ideas from reading your classmates' forums. So the forums not only are a replacement for the lecture, but they're also a replacement for the conversation that we have in a class when a teacher is talking about something and then invites students to join in the conversation. Third rule. Each of the prompts needs to have at least a few answers. So if one of the prompts has already 4 responses, then choose a different prompt to write about. Last rule, and a very important rule, we are writing the forums in order to practice rhetorical analysis. Therefore, make sure that when you answer, you are focusing what you're writing on the visuals of the page and not what is happening in the plot or what is happening in the story. Make sure that your focus is on analysis of the visuals, and reading the prompt and rereading the prompt will help you know how to do that analysis. And target your entry for the rest of the class. Don't think of this as writing a stuffy, boring essay. Think of it as analyzing this text in detail with your classmates for your own benefit and for theirs. And one last tip. It's really a good practice whenever you're writing online, not only at the studio, but any online tool that you're using, a blog or E3 when you're taking the test. Write your answers first in a Word document or a word processing document and save it. Have it on your computer. Then copy and paste it into your forum entry at the studio. Let's come back out to the main page of the studio because I'd like to talk to you for a moment about the course objectives. If you scroll down, you'll see the course objectives here right under your instructor's email information. These are the student learning outcomes or objectives for all the composition courses. So these are the learning objectives for not only 39B, but also 39C when you take that. I'd like you to read these because they will help you understand why we're doing some of the things we're doing. But the one that is most germane to what I'm about to talk about is the very last one, which says composing in electronic environments. We understand that when you get out of college, you're probably going to be able to have to use the internet in many different ways, in many different forms, and learn quickly how to navigate a page and figure out how to use it for your job and for your professional careers. So that's part of our learning objective with writing 39B and C as well, even though it's an online class, so a lot of what we're doing is already on the internet. We also want you to learn some internet skills that you might not have had before you started this class. So that brings me to my next point. Back at the forums, when you click into each one of the prompts as you're reading, you will notice that each prompt asks you to start your entry by inserting an image of the panel or the page that you'll be writing about. Some of you may already know how to do this. If you have a Mac, you can hit the Command, Shift, and 3 at the same time, and you'll hear a noise that sounds a lot like a camera. So again, that's the Command, Shift, and 3 all at the same time. Then if you go to your Finder and your desktop, you'll see a screenshot. That's the first thing, and there you go. Here's a screenshot of what we were just looking at. Then you can take that into a iPhoto, any kind of photo manipulation software you have, and crop it, and then place it into the forum. If you have a PC, there should be a button on your keyboard that says print screen. That should be basically the same thing as what I've just shown you on a Mac. I'm not as familiar with a PC, so I just went to Google and searched how to print screen on PC, and here's this entry in About.com that shows you how to capture the desktop in Windows. Okay, so now you have your image, you have it on your computer, and you're ready to put it into your forum at the studio. So here I am in my Finder. Here's the image that I'm going to put into the beginning of my forum entry. It's on my desktop. So I'm going to answer this one. So you go into it, you hit reply, then you can decide if you want to have the text of the question show up. You might want to do that to have it right there while you're answering, because each prompt will give you step-by-step instructions on how to answer it well. And then when you're done, you can take it out. So you can change yes and no whether you want that to show. So to enter a image, you put your cursor where you want your image to appear, and then you click on this little window. If you mouse over, it says image. It looks like some grass with a sun. And then the first thing that you'll have to do is you'll have to upload your image to the studio. You can't just drag and drop from your desktop or a website into the studio, because what you're doing in the studio is you're basically creating an HTML page. You're creating a web page. And they haven't quite gotten it there yet where you can just drag and drop things into the studio, although that is on our next list of things to do in the next upgrade. So what you'll have to do first is upload the image. So you go to upload, you browse your drive, and you find what you're looking for. And I'm going to use this We3 page. Click on that, and then send it to the server. And you'll see, when you see the image come up here in this little window, then you probably want to constrain the width, keep the little lock on so that you don't stretch it so it's wider than it is longer, longer than it is wider, to keep the restraints where they are. So keep that locked, and then do 640 here, because that's usually the widest that any web browser can take. So then you click OK, and once you click OK, you see you're back in your forum page, and now here is your image. If you put it in there and then you thought, oh wow, that's just bigger than I thought it should be, you can click on it and just resize it manually. Okay, before we close today, I'd like to give you a very short introduction to Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely, and the comic book We3. This is the image that was put on the collection of the 3 issues, issue 1, 2, and 3. The first issue features a Lost and Found poster for Bandit, the dog. The second issue features the Lost and Found poster for the cat, Tinker. And the third issue features a Lost and Found poster for the rabbit, Pirate. We3 is not the first comic book that Frank Quitely and Grant Morrison have worked on together. Grant Morrison is the writer, Frank Quitely is the illustrator. When the We3 Head Notes group gets working, you'll be able to read the wiki and learn a lot more about the overall context of We3, of how it was published, and about Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. But for now, let me give you a few places to look just to find out a little bit more about these people before you start reading. One good way to find out more about Grant Morrison would be to go to Amazon.com and search for Grant Morrison. Just scroll through and you'll notice that Grant Morrison is actually very well known for superhero work. We3 is one of the things he's worked on, but you'll see quite a few Batman, X-Men, Superman, Justice League of America. Pretty much all the superheroes have had some Grant Morrison treatment in one issue or another. Another way that you can find out more about Grant Morrison is by going to his website, grantmorrison.com. Here's the homepage for his website, and you can see his latest news, things that he's won awards for, things that he's working on. You can even find that he recently appeared in My Chemical Romance music video. Another way that you can learn about Grant Morrison is to look him up in Wikipedia. Now, you don't want to quote from Wikipedia in an academic article or an academic essay because a scholarly audience is looking for more than what you can find in a dictionary or an encyclopedia. Quoting from a dictionary encyclopedia would be like something you might do in junior high school or high school, but you're now writing as a scholar for other scholars. So we're all past the point of dictionaries and encyclopedias. And that's why you shouldn't quote from Wikipedia. It just doesn't do very much for your scholarly credibility. But even though you don't quote from it, you should always check it first because it's always full of great information. And usually the people who have written a Wikipedia article are fans. So fans of Grant Morrison have written this Wikipedia article. One good thing about Wikipedia is you'll learn a lot more just from reading this very short article than you would in probably anything else that you would do. And at the end of a good Wikipedia article, you'll find lots of links to other sources that you can quote from in your scholarly writing, or in other words, your forum or your academic essay. Frank Quitely, if we look him up on Amazon.com, we see that he's also got he's got 128, not quite so many as Grant Morrison, but he's an artist, and he's not known for being a particularly fast artist. He takes his time with things. I think he's a little bit of a perfectionist, and you can find out more about him by scrolling through here. You can see that he's also worked on a lot of superhero work, a lot of Batman, X-Men, Superman. In fact, most of the time when he's worked on superheroes, he's been working with Grant Morrison. Another good way to get a feel for Frank Quitely is to go to the Google images search and type in Frank Quitely, and it'll bring up a lot of artwork that he has done over the years. You'll see there's a Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, with a lot of We3 sprinkled in. As you're writing your forum entry about We3, one of the things that we're asking you to focus on is the images, how the images communicate to you. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to get an idea for Quitely's artistic conventions. Of course, you can also look up Frank Quitely on Wikipedia and learn a little bit more about him. You'll learn that his real name is Vincent Dagan. He actually changed his name to Frank Quitely because he didn't want his family to know about his work because he thought they would find it upsetting when he was younger, when he first started drawing. So look through all of these, and you might also just do more, follow some links, do a Google search for Frank Quitely, do a Google search for Grant Morrison, and learn a little bit more about this writer and this illustrator and what they're trying to do with We3. So that's it for this forum video. I hope that you found it helpful, and if you have any further questions, just email your instructor or find one of us when we're doing our AIM office hours and ask us. We're happy to help you with any challenges or problems that you run into as you're working on your forums this week. Good luck!